Hello. So June 2020 was an incredible reading month for me. I think I read 6 books in the whole of 2019, and in June I read 8 books. So yeah, you could say I managed to read more books this past month than I read all of last year. So I just thought I would do this little video just to kind of go through what I read and what my thoughts were. So the first book I read way back at the start of the month, which seems like so long ago now, and that was The Flatshare by Beth O'Leary. So this book follows Tiffy and Leon, who both live in London. So Tiffy works during the day as a publisher and Leon does nights as a nurse. So instead of just sharing a flat, they also share a bed. But they've never met because Tiffy's in it during the night and Leon is in it during the day. So this story just follows their life as they kind of go alongside each other, never meeting until they finally meet, and obviously fun things happen once they actually meet. So yeah, I really enjoyed this book. It's just really nice, really happy read. It's a rom-com, so it's very light. It's kind of long. I think it's about 400 pages. It's like coming up to 400 pages, which is quite long, but I managed to read this all in like one sitting one day when I just switched off my phone and just unplugged from life and just decided, you know what, I'm going to read a book today, and this was said book that I read, and that really kick-started my journey in reading in June 2020. So the next book that I read was Such a Funny Age by Kylie Reid. So I've had this one sitting on my shelf for quite a while and I just hadn't picked it up, but I knew that with the Black Lives Matter movement really kicking off and picking up steam during June 2020, I thought it was a really good time to start to read some more black fiction, and since this was on my shelf I was like, let's give this a try. This story follows 2 women. So Alex is a feminist blogger who writes letters, something, and she's white, and Amira, who is her babysitter, and she is black. And right at the start of the book, Amira gets accused of kidnapping Alex's daughter Briar while they are out in a supermarket late at night. And the story then follows the aftermath of that incident and Alex trying to make it up to Amira in the most preposterous ways possible. Like, she really goes above and beyond to make this up to Amira. And yeah, I really liked the book. I thought the story was great. I just personally didn't connect with any of the characters in this book, and that's a really big thing for me when I'm reading, is that I love characters, so if I don't connect to a character, I'm not really going to connect to the book. So I feel like that was my biggest issue with it, but I still 100% recommend the read because it's really great. It talks about class and race and systemic racisms that kind of, like, as white people we wouldn't really always recognise as racism. So it's a really eye-opening read, and it's just, yeah, it's not like, I didn't love it, but I still definitely recommend checking it out. Okay, so June 2020 was the month that I discovered Overdrive. And I had a bit of an obsession with Overdrive, quite frankly, and I was like constantly just like requesting books that I knew I wasn't going to finish or read, so I ended up having to return a whole load, but I basically got through a lot of books on Overdrive. So the first one was Meet Cute by Helena Hunting, and this one I actually listened to an audiobook, which was really nice, and having listened to other audiobooks since, I realised I liked this one more than I thought I did at the time. And it covers the story between Kaelin and Daxton, who are both lawyers, but Daxton is like a really major deal celebrity. Think like Chad Michael Murray, teenage drama kind of level. So Kaelin was like obsessed with him when she was a teenager, and then they end up in the same class in law school. But this book, so that's just the introduction, and then this book follows them a couple of years afterwards whenever Daxton ends up in Kaelin's office looking for legal help. There's a lot of fairly graphic sex scenes in this book, and don't get me wrong, I love a sex scene in a book, but for me the ones in this book are kind of like, they distract me from the story, because the actual story is really good and I really enjoyed the story. The dialogue was kind of clunky, but all in all it was actually a really enjoyable listen. I actually actively wanted to listen to it and get it finished. So that's to me is the mark of a good story, something that I was invested enough in to like actually want to finish because I wanted to find out what happened rather than just get through with it, which you'll find out definitely happened with some other books that I read this year. The next book that I read was Infinity Sun by Adam Silvera, and this one I also got on Overdrive, but this was an ebook this time instead of an audiobook. Infinity Sun follows two brothers called Emil and Brighton who live in this world where there is magic, and magic is found in two ways. There are celestials who are born with magic, and there are spectres who like reap their magic from magical creatures. So I've just graduated and I did my dissertation on CRISPR, and which is a gene editing software if you didn't know that. So the way that magic works with spectres is super similar to like the potentials of what CRISPR can do. So that aspect of it really excites me. This is Adam Silvera's first fantasy, but I love his other books. He himself has said that he knows that he needed more world building. So that's like the main criticism I think people have of this book, but I honestly adored it. The ending left me like so shocked. I was like, ah. I'm not going to spoil it if you haven't read it, but it's got a lot of bad press, this book, and I kind of get why, but I genuinely really enjoyed this book, and I cannot wait to read Infinity Reaper when it comes out. I think it comes out next year. So the next book that I read was The Raven Boys by Maggie Stiefvater. And I listened to this one again on audiobook from Overdrive. I don't know the plot of Raven Boys. Where have you been? Clearly the same place I've been, but it follows a police sergeant who is told that when she kisses her first love that he will die, basically, and she's never kissed a boy, and she ends up meeting this whole group of boys and they get tangled together, and suddenly this thing becomes an issue. They're also obsessed with this like mystery. She then joins them to help uncover the mystery. When I was like a teenager, I didn't read. Like, I didn't read at all. I read a bit. I have avid memories of bringing The Hunger Games to school and reading it during like breaks in class. I was so invested, but that's where my teenage reading began and ended. So I missed out on a lot of like young adult fantasy series that I could have read when I was younger and didn't. So that's kind of what I'm doing now. I'm trying to catch up on those. So I started with The Raven Boys, and honestly, I should have loved this book. I love boys. I love like fictional teenage boys who are like really like sweet but also like kind of angsty. Just like that's my thing. It draws me to books if those characters exist. So if you have any recommendations with those kind of characters, let me know because I need to read some more. But yes, so basically I finished it and I just was like meh. Like it wasn't, I didn't like any of the characters, and I should have liked the characters because they are my kind of characters, but I just didn't, and I actually ended up putting this one on like 2 times speed just to like get through it because I just wanted it over. I just wanted it over with so I could read something else, and I didn't like that. But I mean, I don't know if it's just because I listened to it on audiobook that I wasn't invested, or if it just wasn't invested in the characters. So I may attempt to read the next book in the series and see if I can like get more invested in that, but if not, I think this series is going to have to be a miss for me, which is really sad because I wanted to love it so much. The next book that I read, I actually have a physical copy of, surprise surprise, and it is Where the Crawdads Sing by Delia Owens. And this book I'd heard so much about. Basically it's about Kaya, or Marsh Girl, and she's a girl who has lived in the marsh her entire life, mainly by herself, and you just follow her. It's 2 parts, so it's coming of age, so it talks about her growing up in the marsh and just going through childhood, adolescence and adulthood in the marsh, and how she relates to like the town folk and other people who will come visit her in the marsh. And yeah, that part of it I enjoyed a lot. Some of it I enjoyed more than others. There's a lot of descriptive marshy things which I also enjoyed because I loved ecology in school. So the author Delia Owens is like a naturalist writer rather than an author. It's her first novel, so there's a lot of like descriptive sciencey naturey terms, but it really helps with like building the environment that you're like reading about, which is really nice. And then it's also a murder mystery because Kaya then ends up getting accused of the murder of one of the like most popular, richest guys in town, and it follows that story as well. So once you've done her growing up story, it then turns into like this story about her trying to like get off this murder trial basically, because she's sentenced to like the death penalty for murdering this guy, and she finds herself tied up in this mystery. I didn't love this book as much as I wanted to love this book because I'd heard so many good things about it, but it is still an incredible piece of literature and I can guarantee it will go down as like a classic in the future. The next book I read was actually very kindly gifted to me by NetGalley and Candlewick Publishing for review purposes, and it was Making Friends with Alice Dyson by Poppy Mosey, and I loved this book so much. It follows Alice Dyson, who is in her final year of school, and she's a little bit of a nerd, she's a little bit of an outcast, and all she really wants is just to finish this school year without any like drama and just to go along with the crowd and kind of just do her own thing, not be seen. That's very much like me in school. I was very much like, I'll just like pass under the radar and get along with people. That was like kind of standard. So from the get-go I was like, her name's Alice, my name's Alice. It's also Australian, so I got to bring out my best Australian accent for reading it, which I enjoyed immensely. And I also related a lot to Alice in school, so that was the 3 reasons why I really wanted to read this book. And basically then Alice's anonymity is then stripped from her when a video of her dancing with the resident bad boy goes viral. Yeah, this book just made me really happy. It focuses a lot on friendship and how friendships change over the years, and on her first love, and it's just such a lovely read, and I really recommend it once it comes out in September. Or if you're in Australia, it's out already because it came out last year, but this is the Everywhere Else publication, comes out in September. The last book that I read was Daisy Jones and the Six by Taylor Jenkins Reid, and I adored this book so much. I don't really have the words to describe this book. I literally just finished it yesterday, so I don't really like know exactly how I feel about it, other than the fact that it's literally leapfrogged its way to like the top of my like favourite books of all time. It's like up there with The Song of Achilles by Madeline Miller. Daisy Jones and the Six follows the story of the band Daisy Jones and the Six, who are a fictional band by the way. They make it sound very real, it's very realistic, but they're a fictional band who were huge in the 70s, and it just follows their rise to fame and the downfall of their fame, and it's told in like an interview perspective. And honestly, when I heard about this book and heard it was huge, I was like, nah, I won't like that. That's not the sort of book I would want to read. And then I read it and I was literally hooked, and I listened to the audiobook for this as well, and it's got a full cast. Like the whole thing is narrated by like different characters for the different characters who are speaking. It's told in interview format, and it's honestly incredible. There's so many quotes in it that I have saved on my phone because I just listened to it. It's like, this is like beautiful. There was a whole paragraph of like this like conversation between two people, and everything they said I was like, this is like 100% like going in my notes. So yeah, I adored this book. That's really all I have to say on that book. I think I just love it too much. I can't put it into words. So yes, that is all the books that I read in June 2020. Will I read 8 books in a month again? Who knows? But yeah, I had a really great month for reading, and I really hope I can keep it up. But thank you for watching. Feel free to like and subscribe, and I will actually try, I know I say this every video I post, but I will actually try and post more often. Make sure you leave your recommendations for books in the comment section so that I can decide what to read next, because I'm reading 8 books has kind of like fried my head and I don't even know where to go next. But yes, I will definitely take your recommendations on board. Bye!